next to the ship, to the big ship, when the Israeli commandos came along both sides of it. We saw helicopters swooping in. And then the captains of the two boats, our boat and the Marmara, made a decision that we should go on forward, that we should go ahead. So we didn't see the entire, the 20 minutes that it took for the commandos to take over the ship.
I've actually been doing this for a long time. For decades, Israel's been capturing ships traveling between Cyprus and Lebanon, kidnapping passengers, sometimes taking them to Israel, putting them in prison, and sometimes as hostages. As long as the United States pats them on the back, they can break any law they want. I mean, they have a pretext. The pretext this time is that they don't want rockets to, they don't want to, they're concerned about rockets from Gaza, but that's not a credible pretext for one thing.
We stopped in the water, the commandos boarded our boat, and these boats were not there to be a welcome to the Israeli Navy. That was not the purpose of the whole thing. And so there was a bit of yelling of, you are not invited on our boat, these are international waters, you are pirates, you are coming on board unwelcome, and get off the boats. Well, commandos don't take that very seriously, and when you're loaded for bear, they come right on, and pushing and shoving, and two of the women that were on the boat were thrown to the ground, were hog-tied, hoods put over their heads, including Wright, who was one of the founders of Free Gaza and also the International Solidarity Movement.
They're keeping them barely alive, but not allowing them any options beyond their survival. Egypt's cooperating, unfortunately. They're also driving them in from the sea. Fishermen can't go out. They're driving away from the borders. There's constant attacks. It's one of the uglier things happening in the world. And they can do it because the U.S.
The photographer for the Sydney Herald was either tasered or hit with some sort of electrical device that knocked her about 4 feet backwards. She and her friend, working for the Australian newspaper, were stunned to hear Australian accents coming from the Israeli soldiers that came on board. We were within 2 minutes of the commandos on board. They were in charge of our craft. We were the first ones to be taken into
a world for which it's really rather hard, sometimes almost impossible to find a solution. But this one's trivial. I mean, there's almost universal agreement on a solution.
Yeah.
And international law supports it. The only thing that's blocking it is that the U.S. and Israel won't accept it.
Yeah.
And everyone knows what it is. It's been sitting on the table for 35 years. Two-state settlement on the international border. There's minor modifications here and there. And if Israel and the United States would accept it, it would be implemented. Everyone's in favor of it. So there's nothing complicated except the fact that we can't get our country to stop blocking.
That was really the holding area for us until the very last prisoners were out of the prison. And then we did leave behind about 5 people who were so seriously injured that the Israeli medical services said it would be dangerous for them to travel. That was in addition to probably 40 people who had already been released. They were injured, but they were released and put on a medical evacuation plane that the Turks sent. I think the Israeli military certainly used a disproportionate. It was a disproportionate use of force. There were ways to stop those ships without going on board, and particularly a vessel that you have 600 people on it, 450 of them men. Not that I agree at all with the Turkish-American citizen. Another one was 48 years old. He was the head of the Taekwondo, he was the coach of the Taekwondo national team for Turkey in martial arts. His wife was also on board. She and I had spoken extensively the first afternoon that I was on board that ship. And I went from the Marmara ship onto the smaller vessel about 12 hours before the attack started. I did not realize that her husband was one of the 9 that was killed until she and all of the other people, all of the other women that were on the Marmara came into our prison about 15 hours after we had gotten there. And to see that that woman whose husband had been killed, and she had closed his eyes on his dead body on the deck of the ship, as well as 3 others who had been killed right about the same time. And then for her to be in prison during that time of trying to deal with the death of her husband and being in prison also.
The U.S. presents itself as powerful enough in the world so that the Western world at least presents the United States as a neutral mediator, that it's not. And there shouldn't be, right now there's so-called proximity talks between Israel and Palestine, the U.S. mediating, but what there should be are proximity talks between the United States and the world, maybe with the UN mediating, then it would